In today's video, we're going to take a look at Dataverse column updates, and specifically, we're going to update based off of a lookup column to a text column. And these can be kind of an interesting process, so I thought today's video might be a good video for explaining how those work. Now, this is actually part of a bigger app development. You can check out that here. And in this particular video, what I do is walk through the building of a model-driven app to track basically all of your different projects and digital resources that you might need to create, such as apps, dashboards, automations. And this one model-driven app will track all of these elements so that you can keep track of which automations belong to which application, and you can just do a really good understanding of how all of your digital resources connect together or don't connect together. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into today's video. So first thing, let's go ahead and create a flow, and it'll be just an automated cloud flow. And we're going to have to skip this, just get right into it here. Let's go ahead and add a trigger. And for this one, let's hit the got it there. Let's go ahead and go with Microsoft Dataverse. Now this is a premium connector. Pretty much everything in Dataverse is premium, so you'll need a premium plan in order to do this. And we're going to go do when a row is added or modified. And what are we going to do? Added or modified specifically. And we're going to choose our table. And in this case, we're going to type in app automation. And we're going to look for the joiner table here. And this one's going to be scoped to the organization. And we're not worried about the select columns or the filter rows in this particular step. All right, let's go ahead and hit this here and add the next step into this. Now we're going to have to work with Dataverse again, so let's go ahead and find our Dataverse options here, and we want to get a row ID. And for this table, we need to get the automation details. And the row ID, let's go look at our dynamic content here, is going to be the automation value here. Now, what we're doing with this is we're getting all the related information. So how lookup field works is it's a record. It's all the related material. We need to get some other information from that record. So we're going to get that record based off of the value that we enter into the table. All right, so that's essentially what we're doing here. Let's go ahead and go on to the next step. All right, now let's get a row ID. And again, we're going to do Microsoft Dataverse, get a row ID. And this one is going to be our app details. So let's go ahead and look for our app details. And for this, our dynamic content is going to be our app value here. To help illustrate what we're trying to do here, here's the table that we're talking about. So this is Dataverse table, and here are the different fields. And we're essentially going to mimic what we have going on here. And we're going to put this information in the notes field. But what we want to do is we want to put the name of the app, and then we want to add a hyphen, and then we want to have the automation here. And usually when you would do this is for a name field like this, where we want to have a unique name that when viewed in Dataverse or in a model-driven app, will show up there instead of using something like auto ID. This is just a little bit cleaner look on this. But what we're trying to do on our next step is to actually build this. And then also, it's going to be used to make sure that we don't have an infinite loop, because we're doing added and modified. So whenever you add a record, it's going to update this. So it's modified. So it's going to trigger it again to run the update. So we need a way to break that infinite loop so that we get a maximum of 2 automated updates, if that makes sense. If I was to run an automation for an added or modified and I don't find a way to break it, it'll just keep going and going and going and going over and over and over again, because it's constantly making a change, which is constantly triggering the flow. So we have to find a way to break that. And using a compose is a great way to do that. So let's go ahead and add a compose. So we'll just look for compose here. Now for the inputs, we're going to put in an expression. And for this one, we need to both concat and coalesce the information. Now, I just copied and pasted it. I've done this so many times. I've got this as kind of like a template, and I just update the template and then just paste it in there. So I don't have to try to remember to not forget all the different marks on this when I'm doing it, because it did take me a while to kind of figure out what the proper format is for this. And I'm leaving this up on the screen for a while. You can obviously pause it and get the information that way, but it's basically just a concat and a class. All we're doing again is getting the app details from that get a row ID, and we're getting the name specifically. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for the automation details. Now, in the case of both of these tables, I've got the name column as basically the name of either the app or the name of the automation. So it makes it very easy. And I do recommend when you're working with Dataverse tables to keep things consistent like that. I always use the name column, never change it to something else, because it makes it much, much easier to do some copy and paste things like this, so that I don't ever have to change this. All I have to do sometimes is change, obviously, what table that I'm referencing here. And I generally use the exact same format for all of my renames, just to make things a little bit easier. Again, it's about efficiency and less extra work when you're building out some of these apps. Let's go ahead and hit the add there. And then we've got our compose, and we'll call this name text. And we'll hit the back button here. And then what we need to do is have a condition where we say, basically, is this the same as the name that's in here on the trigger? So let's go ahead and add this, and then we'll take a look at our condition options here and our dynamic content. We'll just type in name again, because I use name pretty much everywhere. And then we're going to go to our trigger, which is right here, and select the name. Is it equal to the compose that we just created? And all we're doing is doing that comparison. All right, let's go on to the next one. So if it's true, we want it to stop. Basically, the two values are equal. And if it's false, we want it to update our Dataverse row. So let's go ahead and add this in here. Let's change our name here. This will be demo update Dataverse name. And let's go back over here again. All right, so our Dataverse, and then we want to update. So let's go find our update a row here. And our table, again, is going to be that app automation joiners table. Our row ID is from the trigger. And again, we can just type in app automation. And here is our unique ID. And we want to update the notes in this particular case here. And the name that we want to put in here is going to be our compose. All right, let's go ahead and minimize that. And let's save this. All right. Now to test that, we're going to go into our app here. And let's go ahead and click on our associated app. And we're going to add a new item to our app automation joiners. So let's go ahead and add a new record. All right, let's go ahead and add a new record here. And in this case, we're going to add this one here. And we'll leave the purpose blank, and we'll hit the save button. All right, so now if we look at the table, what we're looking for is we've got our new record. Again, we didn't add a purpose. And if we come down here and look at it, it updated the record. So it's now got the name of the app and the name of the automation. Now, in this particular case, it actually was conflicting with the other automation because there's one set up to put it here as part of the app. So if we go look at the flows, we'll see that it actually ran 3 times, again, because there was a couple different updates going on there, but we didn't end up with an infinite loop, which is exactly what we were looking for. So if you're building one of these, you want to make sure you don't have an infinite loop. You always want to check this just to make sure that it doesn't keep going. And if it does, just turn off the automation so that you can fix whatever the issue is. Because if you have a space or an extra space or a lack of space between your hyphen, or your hyphen is a little bit different, maybe you're copying and pasting from a different program and it's a wide hyphen versus a narrow hyphen, all of those things change the comparison. They're not the same thing anymore. So you got to make sure that you're very consistent on how you build these, but that's essentially how you use a lookup column to update. And if we look at this, and let's look at this for example here, when an item is created, what are we getting? We're really not getting a lot of information when an item is added or modified. So we need the get item to get all of the different metadata associated with that record. Because again, it's a lookup inside of the Dataverse table, So you need to get the other information. In this case, we're trying to get the name of the app and the automation, which isn't included in the joiner table. Again, it's just a lookup. It's just going to have lookup values, basically values like this. So if you were to add that into the flow, it would not have the actual name. It would just have a bunch of alphanumeric row ID information instead of the actual name that we're looking for. I hope you found this content helpful. Until next time.